Most people assume that ancient tools were crude, limited, or outdated, the kind of objects you'd only see behind glass in a museum. But step back a few centuries, into forests thick with shadows, plains stretching toward the horizon, and rivers that could turn violent without warning, and you'll discover a completely different truth. Native American tools weren't primitive. They were precision instruments, shaped through trial, adaptation, and relentless problem-solving. Tools so effective that many modern survivalists try, and fail, to recreate them. Imagine navigating wilderness where every sound matters, every step is a calculation, and every decision carries weight. There's no metal, no GPS, no synthetic rope, no backup plan. All you have is your skill and what the land provides. Yet for countless native communities, that world wasn't a threat. It was home. And their tools were the key to mastering it. A bow carved from ash or hickory that could bring down a deer silently. A fishing spear sharpened with stone but balanced so perfectly it felt like an extension of the arm. Traps engineered with such accuracy that they worked while people slept. Fire-making tools that didn't rely on luck but on exact timing and knowledge of how certain woods behave. Scrapers, awls, and knives designed to process hides, shape shelters, carve canoes, prepare food, and craft clothing in any season. Nothing about these tools was random. Every curve, edge, lash, and fiber existed for a reason. They weren't just weapons or gadgets. They were refined survival systems in physical form. If you've ever wondered how people lived without steel, if you've ever questioned what real ingenuity looks like, if you're ready to see why these tools outperformed expectations and why many remain unbeaten today, you're in the right place. Forward subscribe now because every day we explore the technologies and skills that once meant the difference between struggle and mastery in the natural world. If you look at a traditional Native American tool with modern eyes, it's easy to underestimate it. A stone blade, a bow, a fishing weir, a trap made of wood and fiber. At first glance, these objects seem simple, but simplicity is deceptive. Behind every tool was a long chain of experimenting, refining, testing, failing, adjusting, and finally, perfecting something that needed to work every single day. Not as a hobby, not as a sport, but for survival. One of the clearest examples is the bow. Unlike European longbows, which were large, rigid, and required heavy draw strength, native bows were compact, incredibly flexible, and optimized for quick, silent use in dense environments. They weren't made from just any wood. Makers chose materials with specific qualities, then carved and scraped until the bow's limbs flexed evenly. This accuracy allowed hunters to move quickly, shoot accurately in tight spaces, and carry a weapon that wouldn't snag on branches or slow them down. Even cutting tools, scrapers, knives, flakes, showed a level of engineering that surprises archaeologists. Stone wasn't simply chipped. It was shaped to create razor edges thin enough to slice hide or carve wood with precision. Some stone blades are so sharp that modern surgeons have compared their edges to high-grade scalpels. Trademark were another form of quiet brilliance. From complex deadfall systems to woven fish traps, many were designed to work continuously without human intervention. A well-set trap acted like an extra pair of hands, catching food while people focused on other tasks. What made these tools unmatched wasn't just their craftsmanship. It was how perfectly they fit their environments. Every object had a purpose. Every detail had meaning. Nothing was overbuilt. Nothing was wasted. The tools succeeded because they were tailored for the exact challenges of the land, season, and lifestyle. And that refinement gave native communities a level of efficiency modern survivalists still struggle to replicate. Every great tool begins with its materials, and for Native American makers, choosing those materials was an art in itself. They didn't pick up just any stone, bone, or piece of wood and start carving. They understood how each resource behaved under pressure, how it reacted to moisture or heat, how long it lasted, and what shape it naturally wanted to take. Tools began long before the first cut was made. Stone was selected with care. Some types fractured cleanly, allowing blades to be shaped with sharp, glass-like edges. Flint, chert, and obsidian were prized for tools that needed precision. Other stones, like basalt or granite, were chosen for their density and strength, perfect for axes and hammers. The makers studied a stone's interior by tapping it lightly, listening for the right sound before committing to hours of shaping. Bone and antler brought qualities stone couldn't offer. Antler tips were strong enough to carve into wood, or flake hard stone. Rib bones became scrapers, curved naturally for processing hides. Leg bones turned into needles and awls, sharp enough to pierce thick material, but light enough for detailed work. These weren't substitutes for metal. They were materials uniquely suited to their tasks. Wood offered an entirely different range of possibilities. Hardwoods like hickory, ash, and oak provided the elasticity needed for bows and strong handles. Softer woods carved easily into containers, traps, and utensils. Flexible branches bent into frames for snowshoes and baskets. Each piece was evaluated for grain, strength, and weight before being turned into something useful. Even sinew, the strong, fibrous tissue from animals, became essential. It served as cordage for bows, bindings for tools, and strings for traps. Durable when dried, flexible when wet, it tied entire tool systems together. In every region, builders learned how to transform raw materials into dependable instruments. They didn't force materials into roles they weren't suited for. They matched each tool to the natural strengths already present in the land. One of the most impressive things about Native American tools is how intentionally they were designed. Every piece of wood, stone, or bone was shaped with a specific purpose in mind. Not for decoration, not as a display piece, but to solve a problem in daily life. These tools didn't try to do everything. They did exactly what they needed to do with remarkable effectiveness. Take the multi-purpose knife. In many regions, a single blade had to handle dozens of tasks: cleaning game, cutting hides, carving wood, preparing food, and shaping other tools. Instead of being bulky or complicated, the knife was shaped with a slim, sharp edge and a comfortable handle that allowed for hours of repeated use. The shape wasn't random. It matched the natural motions of the hand. Hunting tools were equally strategic. A bow and arrow weren't just weapons. They were quiet, lightweight systems optimized for different environments. Arrows were matched to specific types of game. Larger game required heavier shafts. Birds and small animals needed lighter ones. Stone points were shaped for penetration, bone points for repeated durability, and sharpened wood points for quick crafting during travel. Fishing tools adapted to waterways with breathtaking precision. Harpoons had detachable tips that stayed in the fish even after impact. Nets were woven to match the size of local fish. Weirs, large wooden traps built across streams, were engineered to guide fish into narrow channels where they could be collected with minimal effort. Even shelter-building tools were specialized. Adzes carved beams and poles. Awls punched holes in bark, hide, or mats. Digging sticks shaped river clay, loosened soil, and helped build storage pits. Then there were the true survival multipliers: fire-making kits, snares, bone needles, scrapers, and snowshoe frames. Each one expanded a person's reach, making it possible to build, hunt, repair, and travel with incredible efficiency. These inventions for convenience. They were purpose-built answers to the demands of wild places, practical, reliable, and perfectly suited to the landscape. To understand why Native American tools were so effective, You have to look past the object itself and focus on the hands that made and used it. A tool was never just a piece of carved wood or shaped stone. It was an extension of human skill, shaped by experience, sharpened by practice, and carried with an understanding of exactly what it could do. These tools worked so well not because they were magical, but because people trained themselves to use them with extraordinary precision. Take a simple atlatl, for example. In the right hands, it transformed a hunter's arm into a long-range throwing machine, capable of sending a dart farther and faster than most modern people can imagine. But the tool alone wasn't enough. Hunters practiced throwing from different angles, adjusting for wind, and reading the movement of animals. The tool amplified the skill. It didn't replace it. The same was true of bows. A bowmaker might spend days shaping a stave from ash or hickory, but the accuracy of the shot came from the archer's ability to sense tension, judge distance, and release with control. Children practiced from an early age, learning how to move quietly, how to breathe, how to steady themselves in dense forest or open plains. A well-made bow helped, but a skilled archer made it deadly. Even tools for everyday tasks carried this connection. Scrapers and awls carved clothing fitted perfectly for weather. Needles stitched footwear that allowed miles of movement without injury. Fire-making sets were mastered through technique, knowing how much pressure to apply, how fast to spin, and which woods produced the most reliable ember. In every case, the tool and the user worked as one. These weren't objects that solved problems on their own. They were instruments sharpened by human ability, each one unlocking more capability than any modern gadget could replicate without training. Tools from simple materials into powerful survival systems. Hunting was never random. It relied on timing, patience, and tools designed to match animal behavior with absolute accuracy. Native American hunting weapons weren't heavy or overly complicated. They were lean, efficient, and tailored to the exact species and environments they were used in. This precision is one of the biggest reasons these tools remain unmatched. The bow and arrow stood at the heart of many hunting traditions, but these bows weren't all the same. Some were short, powerful, and ideal for dense forests where quick shots mattered more than distance. Others were longer and optimized for open plains, where hunters needed range and stability. Arrows were crafted to match the bow, balanced, straight, and tipped according to what they were meant to strike. A stone point for deep penetration, a bone point for repeated durability, a sharpened wooden tip for rapid crafting in emergencies. Then there was the atlatl, a deceptively simple throwing tool that multiplied a hunter's strength. Using leverage, it launched darts with surprising force. This wasn't just distance, it was trajectory, speed, and the ability to strike silently. Hunters trained their eyes to read subtle movements in animals and release the dart at the perfect moment. In skilled hands, the atlatl rivaled modern hunting gear in effectiveness. Spears and lances played their roles too. On the plains, horseback hunters used lightweight throwing spears for moving targets. In northern regions, heavier thrusting spears helped hunters face large game like moose or caribou. Each design matched the terrain and the prey. Even small game tools showed brilliance. Slings, throwing sticks, and snares were engineered to work quietly without scaring other animals nearby. A well-placed snare acted like an assistant, working through the night while hunters slept. These tools didn't rely on brute force, they relied on precision. They were built not to overwhelm the environment, but to fit into it, to read it, and to leverage it. Hunter success wasn't luck. It was engineering, strategy, and mastery woven together. If the forest demanded stealth and precision, rivers required something else entirely: timing, observation, and tools designed to work with moving water rather than against it. Native American fishing systems revealed a level of engineering that modern anglers rarely consider. These weren't just tools. They were water-based strategies, refined through generations of watching how fish behave in every season. Start with the fish spear. It wasn't a crude, sharpened stick. The tips were often detachable, designed to lodge securely in the fish after impact. Some had prongs carved from bone, arranged to prevent slippery fish from wriggling free. Hunters knew exactly how to read reflections on the water's surface and adjust their aim to counter refraction. What looked simple took years of practice to master. Then there were weirs, large wooden traps built directly into streams. These structures guided fish into narrow channels where escape became nearly impossible. Positioned at the right bend of a river or at the right depth, a weir could feed an entire village with minimal effort. Once built, it worked constantly, gathering fish throughout the day and night. It was efficiency on a level modern survivalists can only admire. Paycheck and basket traps added another layer of brilliance. Woven from plant fibers, willow shoots, or roots, these traps took advantage of fish behavior. Some were shaped to funnel fish inward but make escape difficult. Others rested at the bottom of shallow rivers where fish naturally traveled. Lightweight, portable, and durable, they turned waterways into reliable food sources. And then there were the tools for navigating water itself. Canoe paddles, carved with perfect balance. Netting needles for rapid repairs. Water containers shaped from wood or bark. Tool served a precise function: catching, trapping, storing, or transporting. Nothing was random. Nothing was wasted. Together, these instruments show how deeply native communities understood rivers, currents, and the creatures living within them. When most people think of survival tools, they imagine weapons or fishing gear. But some of the most essential Native American tools were the ones that shaped daily life. The tools that built homes, crafted clothing, prepared food, and kept families warm through long seasons. These weren't secondary or simple. They were the backbone of every community, and without them, survival would have been impossible. Start with scrapers, one of the most versatile tools in indigenous technology. Made from stone, bone, or antler, scrapers prepared hides for clothing, shelter covers, bedding, and footwear. A well-made scraper removed fat and tissue cleanly, producing soft, durable hide that could withstand cold, rain, and intense use. Clothing wasn't stitched together roughly. It was fitted, layered, and constructed with purpose. Much of that precision began with the scraper. Awls and needles brought another level of craftsmanship. Thin, sharpened bone needles pierced tough materials without tearing them. Awls punched clean holes in bark, matting, hide, and woven fibers. These tools made everything from moccasins to snowshoe webbing, cradle boards, quivers, parka hoods, and storage bags. Every stitch held real weight, and these small tools allowed clothing to function as true survival gear, not just protection. Then came tools for building. Adzes carved beams and posts. Stone axes split logs and shaped poles. Digging sticks loosened soil for storage pits, clay collection, roots, and shelter construction. Entire homes were shaped using these implements, from bending saplings for wigwams to smoothing cedar for plank houses to cutting reeds for thatching. Even cooking and food preparation relied on specialized tools. Mortars and pestles ground grains, nuts, and dried meat. Wooden paddles, spoons, and tongs were shaped to handle high heat. Bark containers held water and ingredients near the fire without burning. Taken together, these tools show something crucial. Survival wasn't only about hunting or defending. It was about building a world where daily tasks were efficient, reliable, and supported by tools crafted with intention. These instruments allowed communities to live comfortably, create, and thrive, not just endure. Modern survival kits are packed with gadgets. A knife for this, a tool for that, backups for the backups. Native American survival systems took the opposite approach. Instead of carrying 20 tools, one or two well-crafted items often did the work of many. This wasn't minimalism for style. It was efficiency born from deep experience in the wild. A single tool had to earn its place. Take the belt knife. Light, durable, and shaped for long use, it handled tasks that today would require a whole box of gear. The same blade cleaned game, carved bow staves, shaped traps, split kindling, cut cordage, and helped process hides. It didn't rely on gimmicks. Its strength came from balance, sharpness, and a handle that fit naturally in the hand. A skilled user could do delicate carving one moment and heavy cutting the next. Or consider the digging stick, one of the simplest-looking tools imaginable, yet its uses were almost endless. It loosened roots, harvested edible plants, shaped soil for storage pits, chipped through frozen ground, leveled shelter floors, and even cracked bones for marrow. One tool, crafted from a sturdy branch and hardened in fire, replaced half a modern toolkit. Snowshoes, which were more than mobility gear. They were platforms for carrying loads across deep winter ground, frames for stretching hides, temporary barriers for fishing, and even makeshift shovels. Their value wasn't limited to travel. They supported entire winter routines. The bow drill, used for fire starting, offered similar versatility. Beyond ignition, it taught control, rhythm, and timing, skills that carried over into carving, shaping, and repairing tools. What made these tools truly unmatched wasn't only their design, it was how well they integrated into daily life. Instead of relying on dozens of items, people relied on a handful of finely tuned essentials. This approach kept movement light, decision-making simple, and survival remarkably efficient. This wasn't improvisation, it was mastery, the ability to make one tool perform the work of many. Survival in North America meant facing every kind of climate. Scorching summers, freezing winters, endless rain, powerful winds, flooding rivers, and shifting seasons that never arrived gently. Native American tools weren't built for one environment or one purpose. They were engineered with seasonal change in mind, shaped for conditions that could turn dangerous without warning. This adaptability is one of the biggest reasons their tools remain unmatched. In winter, tools had to endure cold that could crack wood, snap fibers, and freeze fingers stiff. Ice chisels, carved from bone or antler, opened fishing holes and cut through frozen ground. Snowshoes, with their webbed frames and lightweight build, turned deep snow into passable terrain. Winter hunting bows were shorter and stronger, built to remain flexible when temperatures dropped. Even scraping tools were adjusted seasonally, designed to handle frozen hides that behaved differently from summer-prepared ones. Summer required a different approach. Heat and humidity affected cordage, hides, and wood. Fishing nets needed materials that resisted rot. Canoe paddles were shaped for long days on rivers swollen with warm season rains. Digging sticks harvested roots and plants only available during hot months, their tips hardened in fire to handle dry soil. Unique set of challenges and opportunities. This was the season for preserving meat, preparing hides, and gathering plants. Drying racks, smokehouse tools, and stone blades were tuned for efficiency. Traps were built in anticipation of migrating animals, with designs adapted to shifting temperatures and changing animal behavior. Spring required tools for waterlogged ground and unpredictable weather. Snares built for thawing forests, fish weirs designed for strong spring currents, and adzes used to repair shelters after harsh winters all played their part. Every tool acknowledged the transitional nature of the season. Through all of this, tools weren't static. They evolved with the weather, shifting needs, and new challenges. Their strength came not only from their construction, but from the way they responded to the world as it changed. Survival meant adapting, and these tools were built for exactly that.